Guys, I believe I have solved it. I think I have solved Salad Fingers 13, The Harvest. Then you are wondering what's going on here, here's a quick rundown. And then I might go into a little bit more detail throughout the rundown. So basically, this is from the perspective of the father and Kenneth. Kenneth is born to the father and Marjorie, and unlike Hubert, the father loves Kenneth because he is the son he always wanted. And also, Kenneth is their first child. He teaches Kenneth the ways of the land, and perhaps that monster from the beginning is either a slave owner of some kind or a head farmer, and we see that there is a famine that's about to happen. Now, this brings into the question, perhaps this is looking into the father's past, or perhaps this is Hubert when he is taken to the glass mother and brother. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I made, I think it was like 2 years ago at this point, I made a Salad Fingers theory, where basically I said with the events of Glass Brother, when Hubert is taken by Glass Brother and Mother, that is represented as he never actually escaped. But basically what happened was they were a foster home, like an adoptive family, and there is a great chance they were abusive to Hubert. So I'm guessing that either this is the father's past, showing that he used to run a land, which is probably why he tells all this to Kenneth later on, as you'll see, or this could be Hubert doing forced labor. Now, I think it's probably the first option, but I thought I might as well put that out there. Now, back to the story. So this famine going on for the father, and also the stress of having to drop out of the war because, he has Kenneth, this can encourage the father's anger problem that we see throughout the series. Yvonne and Hubert are born, with the father mistreating them during this time, and when Yvonne is older, she meets Jeremy Fisher, who at the time is in the war, visiting the father, judging by the suit that he wore. Now, the father ends up killing him quite some time later after he realizes that he's been sleeping with Yvonne. Now, that's not really important to this episode's story, but as I said, I just thought you might want to know that if you want to see a further on story. But, okay, now back to the present. One of the father's best friends at the time is Bartholomew. I don't know how they said his name. Alright, but back to the present. One of the father's best friends is Bartholomew. Okay, I'm gonna have pain reading this name. De Grice, I think is how you say it. So anyway, Bartholomew de Grice is one of the father's best friends at the time, who we learn has some legal troubles that are hopefully behind him. And we will see exactly what those legal troubles are in this video. So, the father asks all of the kids to come to a dinner party for a family gathering after all this time when the others left. Once again, I made a theory with this. So basically, this is what happened in the theory that I made, is that throughout the time, so Kenneth is in the war, then Yvonne goes, I guess, to live her own life, and she meets Jeremy Fitzgerald. Not Jeremy. Oh, dang, I'm still in my FNAF phase. So she meets Jeremy Fisher, and I guess that the father either doesn't like his race or he doesn't like Jeremy as a person to be dating Yvonne, which prompts him to kill him much later, and Yvonne goes into exile. And then Hubert, meanwhile, is left alone with the father after Marjorie died during childbirth, which is why they don't interact with each other. Now you might be wondering, why is Marjorie with no hair on the table right beside Hubert and Jeremy in this episode? Well, that's probably because it represents Yvonne, since we see later on, not later on, throughout the whole series, Salad, I guess, has these moments where he completely forgets some of their names at times. And also, it's just been a while since we brought up Yvonne, so this kind of seems a little bit odd of why they would just bring Marjorie into the picture again. Now, regarding this whole thing, I got to say that, so yeah, Hubert and the father are the only ones at the house currently, and the father escapes to France, and meanwhile Hubert is brought up for adoption, but then the father realizes his ways that were wrong after a bad encounter with somebody that he met that was half his age all the way in France, so he goes all the way back to Britain, and he tries to reconcile with some of his friends, not some of his friends, well maybe some of his friends, it depends, but mostly his family, which is why in the market episode he's running a market with Hubert. So, this is the reunion of when they're all back, including Kenneth. But really, what ends up happening first is before any of the others arrive, it's just Bartholomew de Grice, the father, and Kenneth here. Bartholomew gets into a murderous rage, which I think was his legal trouble. I'm pretty sure he was a murderer, and he kills off Kenneth without the father knowing, which is why Salad knocks out his son with the rock. Now you might be thinking, no, this is the young salad killing the older salad. Look closely at their design. The older salad, like the one with the rock, has more wrinkles and everything, and the other one doesn't, meaning that the salad with the rock is much older. And so I'm thinking, this is what my theory is that perhaps Bartholomew kills off Kenneth without the father ever knowing. And what I'm about to say next is going to get a little bit disturbing. So then, to make it worse, Bartholomew literally cooks Kenneth without the father ever knowing, and they all enjoy their meal together before they part ways. Now, you might be thinking that's a little bit absurd, but in reality, I mean, if you look at all the lore, it kind of does make a little bit of sense. Since we hear early on in Postman that Bartholomew had some legal troubles, but we never got any glimpses as to what that legal trouble actually was. And so that's what I'm thinking, is that perhaps Bartholomew was a crazed lunatic murderer, but he was confined. But then once the father invites him to the luncheon to celebrate, he lets out that anger, and he pretty much just kills off Kenneth. Either that, or maybe there was something else we didn't see where the father and Bartholomew were rivals, so instead of killing each other, Bartholomew kills off Kenneth. Now you might be wondering, how would he cook and serve Kenneth without any of them knowing? Well, I'm pretty sure what happened there is perhaps maybe he could just simply said to the father that, Kenneth had to leave, or I don't know where he is. And unknown to them, they ate the evidence. Now, this also leads into the aftermath of the situation. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I believe that perhaps, later on, Jeremy gets killed by the father once he realizes that he's been sleeping with Yvonne. It's unknown what happened to Yvonne later on at that point. Then we see Hubert, as I said earlier, during this luncheon. Wait a minute. Actually, hold on. Wait, no. No. So, hold on. So, yeah, the luncheon happens here after, when they're reuniting, and then the father, I guess, just has had it with Jeremy's crap. I'm guessing he just doesn't like Jeremy for all this time. But then once he actually figures out that he's with Yvonne, that's where his neck that's just where he snaps, and he just kills off Jeremy without anybody knowing, and that's was probably one of his last crimes, because he thinks he's doing something good for Yvonne. And so we don't know what happened to Yvonne after that. Perhaps she went to either stay with some new family members or start her own family. And then Hubert, as we see, probably stayed with his father. And yeah, and so basically so the father, I guess, has had a history of accidental cannibalism. And also another weird, interesting thing I figured out was in the beginning with that whole plant-looking thing that I thought was the landlord or something. If you look at who Salad puts into the ground, it's the doctor from Birthday. Now, what could this mean? This is probably just him utilizing his resources, and he's just, I guess he lived at a time where if you kill somebody, that are used as a sacrifice. Either that, or maybe it's just once he died, they just planted people in the ground as literal graves, and perhaps that's what escalated it. And so it got to the point where the father was just okay with that, and so I'm guessing he probably did the same to Jeremy. And so then, after Hubert and Yvonne, all of them live out their lives, it's just the father alone in the house, and Bartholomew is probably locked up in prison somewhere. And also, I think this is taking place in Britain. And then we get a broadcast from, I guess, one of Salad's old army friends, that apparently there's a nuke warning or something, basically saying that there's some disaster that's about to happen, which is where the episode Cupboard takes place, where the father goes into the cupboard when the nuclear explosion happens. But what ends up happening is he doesn't die, but he becomes radioactive, and neither male or female, showing of how, I'm not going to go into that subject, actually. But so then we see that the reason he goes through all these things as Salad Fingers is simply because, looking at all the things he's done, he's been in the war, which probably gave him slight PTSD, the stress of running a family when he probably wasn't ready, and also the fact that he did so much harsh labor around the house, and only to discover later on that his oldest and most loved son was killed by one of his best friends. Now, if that doesn't give you some sort of stress or PTSD, I don't know what is. That's probably why he was so angry at his family. It was not because they did anything wrong, but it was a way for him to lash out about all of his inner problems instead of actually expressing them. And so then So what happens after that? Well, I'm thinking because he probably thinks that they're all dead, that he eventually makes this whole system in his mind where he does believe now that they are, in fact, alive. All of his friends and family that he's had, they are really most likely dead. Except for a few people that probably hid in their own cupboards that got mutated, like that weird yellow thing that we saw for a while. And that's a recap of that, a whole Saltfinger story and this episode. Now, I hope that makes some sense, and if it doesn't, well, just wait for another Saltfinger's explanation, will ya? Are you gonna go watch Matt Pats or something? Yeah, I can bet he's probably gonna make something at one time. Anyway, I hope you guys like this, and I hope this made somewhat sense. I'm Complex to Live, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye. Hello everyone. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the explanation. Now this is the reaction. I thought you might want the explanation first. So, yeah, this is Saltfingers 13. Obviously, I'm reacting to it before the explanation, but you get the point. The fact that this is called Harvest makes me think that it's like farming related of some kind. Oh yeah, because if you don't know, he uploads them on Newgrounds too. Episode 13, Harvest. I also realize this looks like the same level of graphics as Glass Brother. So that might explain why it took so long. This is also 11 minutes.
This year's grand feast
I'm so glad this is back.
Certain to be a disaster.
So I'm guessing this is a famine.
I'll be the fool of the town.
So he's a farmer that failed.
Oh, mother of life, builder of my body, I await your caring arms and the warmth of your teat.
So I guess he's just asking God for the ground to be watered. Wait, hold up. Is that the doctor?
Take the carcass of my diminished companion,
I'm pretty sure
Melvin Wishcake.
Wishcake.
A rotten friend, no longer fit for finger.
That looks a lot. Doesn't that look a lot like the doctor from
May
Birthday?
his body seed the loins of your womanhood.
Huh? Bro, what did you do?
Grandmother Growth, you must have lost all faith in this broken soul.
What is that? David Firth, you are a madman. I guess this is symbolic of him now seeing something they weren't supposed to.
I trust you'll be attending the luncheon.
There's probably a deeper meaning of this. It's just I'm probably not going to catch it all in the first reaction.
We'll be seating guests from the higher society. This is our chance to ascend.
Is this still in Britain? So he has Hubert with him.
Hubert Cumberdale.
Oh, he's now noticing.
Have you been utilising the naughty stick again?
Well, you're the one that rubbed your own back with it.
Well, it smells like you. Dirty, rotten pleasure hound you are. Such filth will take you right to the beast.
Okay. See, if you ever saw my...
Listen to your father, Hubert. He knows what's best.
I called it! I called it! So if you don't know, my Earth theory was that he's like the father. Whenever I asked Hubert, he's the father to it. I was right!
I formally invite your attendance. Dear lazy Eskindale, your awful appendix died yesterday. Plarp, plarp, plarp. I must ask that you hush. Pipe down,
Which reminds me of Peter
One set of
Griffin's growth.
sentences is quite enough.
Uh-oh.
Work faster. you're precisely right. I seem to have lost motion.
Also, does he have new shoes now? 'Cause I thought his shoes were always dark brown. 'Cause now they're gray. Oh.
Hello, Mr. Fingers.
Huh.
Hello, miniature Mr. Fingers. You look delicious. I am delicious. My mother says I'm the tastiest boy in the park.
I don't think that's a good thing, dude. I don't think that's a good thing.
Tabai, sarantai,
Just a chant?
mira, faro, parantai. Bulo.
Hello.
Well, you're a daring seamstress, aren't you? We'd best get you in training, Squirty Box.
What kind of name is that for a child? Was that Mr. Branches?
The great sand floor holds all of the good people.
I wonder, maybe this is Kenneth.
100 footsteps towards the glowing circle in the sky is the edge of forever, where a naughty master forbids any further travel. The High Duchess will be attending from Slugwater Palace. What a perfect dream. Broom harder. We'll get a slog's worth out of you, Malado.
Hey, that almost looks like the stuff Vaughn was made of.
Perhaps we'll need a fresh set of skirting boards too.
See, I'm thinking this is probably Kenneth.
Well, the vegetable selection is rather paltry.
You think? You ate that.
Non-existent.
I can see that now.
Lady Etheridge spotted on the horizon. Oh, soft Mr. Boyfingers, how am I to teach you my trade in such limited moments? Use the moon's reason as your wisdom. I've walked your dreams for decades. I've observed you. This is Bartholomew de Grise.
Hey, Bartholomew's back!
To terms regarding the hardening of skin, so tread carefully.
Because he did say,
fetch him indoors to catch his worm
in
by the
Postman
log fire.
that he was going to do
It'd
some
be
more on
rude
him.
not to.
It makes me wonder what he means about the decades thing if he's born to salad fingers. See, I'm thinking this is probably the father when Kenneth was born. Because you realize we don't get much on Kenneth.
Important for you chaps to be on your best behaviour for soft Mr. Boyfingers.
Oh, Jeremy's in a
He's
suit.
part of the family.
Okay.
Oh, Bartholomew de Grise, what a pleasure. I'm honoured.
Is he a living corpse?
Must you keep fidgeting? You'll knot up your buggery bits. Mr. Fingers, it's not ready yet.
So this is the son
I'll
cooking the
need
father?
to show you where we keep the spare towel towels, and of course, Hubert's swollen ankle requires ointment. Don't worry, dear. It's all taken care of. I do most apologise. It's all in your hands now. Give my regards to the Colonel.
So does this mean the original Saltfingers... David, what the freak did you do?
Well, the guests are 15 minutes late.
Wait a minute.
And it's going cold. So I'm just going to start.
So was that the original Salad Fingers, or... I'm trying to think, because so...
Bartholomew de Grais, settle down. I do hope this isn't the start of another one of your episodes. Honestly, I just don't have the patience.
So is Bartholomew a murderer? Don't tell me this is it! David, what have you done? Wait a minute. Well, that's interesting. Because something that I began to realize is that... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a second. Oh, I just realized something. Is here, let me... Here, I'm going to play the scene where he hits him with the rock right here. Now, if you realize from that scene, look at how both the salads look. So I was originally thinking the original Salad Fingers was killed. But in reality, I feel like it looks like the original Salad Fingers killed the younger one and then he ate him. Because it confused me when he was boiling him, he kept calling him dear at a few times and said like, it's in your hands now. Like it's from a father's son, but then it changed to like a relationship of other kinds or something. And the fact that the younger Salad Fingers was birthed from his back, like was birthed from him, it does make me think that what's going on here is the fact that so I was wondering why they kept using Bartholomew, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Bartholomew in the Postman episode was known for like not going out and I guess had a history with something. And even though the older Sal killed the younger one with a rock, I'm guessing that perhaps see what I'm thinking is I'm thinking the younger one is Kenneth, because we don't see much of what happened to Kenneth. And see, the thing about David Firth for me is I realize that he does have a whole story going on, but I think there are moments that they're just there for shock, that they aren't exactly contributed to the story. They're either a funny moment or it's something to substitute for something else, and in reality it's not happening. What I mean by that is when he's cooking the younger one, I'm thinking, and then like serves him and actually eats him, I'm thinking what actually ends up happening there is perhaps, the guests have arrived, and so while he's See now the fact that like you get stabbed like that or hit with a rock, I feel like, because it made me wonder if he was a corpse, because I don't think you can actually survive that. If that big a chunk of a piece was taken out of your head, I don't think that you could actually survive that. And so that just makes me begin to wonder, perhaps what ends up happening is that he's either reconciling with the guy, or perhaps what ends up happening is, I'm trying to figure out an easier way to word this. So I guess basically what I'm trying to say is, so he's not actually in reality cooking him, in reality he's like cooking food, or perhaps he did cook them. And wait, no, he couldn't cook them because. Okay, so let me look at the family line. If my previous theory was correct that, whenever he's scolding Hubert, that's always the father. If you've ever seen my theory of when I covered all the salad fingers, like a 10-minute video, that's when my conclusion was that the reason there's no finger puppet for the father is because Salad's true identity was the father before the nuclear blow-up or whatever in the world happened. And so I think that pretty much replicates it. And then even though I realize that Marjorie, Hubert, and Jeremy are all there together, and Marjorie has her hair out from the Glass Brother episode, it does begin to make me wonder that perhaps there is more to that. And I also realize Jeremy is in a suit as if he's coming from the war. So I'm thinking perhaps that's maybe like the events like right before his murder from what was it, Present? When the father murdered him. And so then what ends up happening after that is, so Jeremy ends up dying after this event, and it does make me wonder, so Marjorie, I guess Marjorie being there at that moment, it does make me wonder that maybe Marjorie was alive, but at the same time I feel like if she was alive we'd have more moments with her. And we've also seen at different times Salad confuses Hubert with a few people and confuses a few of his characters. So I'm thinking perhaps he's referring to Marjorie as maybe Marjorie's representing Yvonne in that, because we don't see Yvonne anywhere. And I don't know, that's just a little bit of a hot take at the moment. And overall, I think Bartholomew, I'm guessing the reason Bartholomew, so I'm guessing a friend of the father's, but I'm guessing what ends up happening is, so the father seems to like Kenneth. This is what my theory is right now. Let's just assume that is father and Kenneth. Okay? Alright. So then, we know Kenneth was in the Great War. So I'm wondering that perhaps when he's younger, his father's teaching him everything. And then there's like a time gap. And then Kenneth is off to the war. And apparently he ends up, I think, visiting Hubert when he's older. But it's like, I think right before that he probably goes to the father, and then, he meets Bartholomew, or he meets him again. And I'm guessing perhaps the father is going insane at this point. Or, well, actually, no, the father probably didn't do anything wrong, no. I'm guessing that the father was reconciling with his son, and then Bartholomew just went on another murderous rampage and killed his son. And I'm wondering that perhaps, so Salad seems to eat his former self really like without hesitation. Like there's nothing really wrong with it. And meanwhile Bartholomew still has the blood on his hands, or on his rock. I don't know what you refer that to. I'm guessing that's because Bartholomew knows what he did, and perhaps that's Bartholomew cooks the son for the dad to eat. That sounds like a weird take, but that's actually what I got out of this. Because this is why David Firth is my favorite animator on YouTube, is because he makes weird crap like this, and yet it works so well. Anyway, I'm Complex Liv. I hope you enjoyed that previous explanation, this abridged explanation right here, and this is going to make my week a lot harder, because now I have to study for school, and also make a theory explanation on this. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. Anyway, I'm Complex Liv, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.